interesting project which is related to investment requirement by a company. I have given a random name to it called as Teclov, which is our own company name. But this is going to give you a good learning from the perspective of whatever you have done till now in terms of your data analysis. So you have to kind of apply a lot of skills in this project coming from NumPy, Panda, your data analysis skills, how you can plot some interesting graphs. Uh, Basically, all these things you will be kind of using it across. Definitely, this project will not require any sort of machine learning. So I hope this will give you a quick relief now that okay, we are not going over a machine learning project. This is a complete data science project, which will require a lot of analysis and help you to understand how to explore with data, how to deal with data with different ways. If you look at the project description itself, this is almost like 12 pages of this PDF file. This project description will be uploaded for you, so you have to definitely walk over this completely first to understand the requirement first. I'm just gonna read it out so that you get some understanding, and wherever some explanation is required, I'm gonna explain that. But at the same time, this project is uh, explanation I have properly put it here so that you don't face any trouble in understanding this. So let's understand. So let's say you work for a company called as Teclov, which is our company, and let's say that this is also doing something other than education, which is an SS. This is also going to handle the asset management. You can think of it like investors who kind of come and invest into some other companies. So Teclov want to make some investment in few companies, and the CEO of Teclov wants to understand the global trend in investments so that she can take the investment decisions effectively. So that's the idea behind it. Now, so they just don't want to randomly go and put their money on some company. They definitely want to ensure and follow some strategy before they can put their own money on it. So let's understand the business. So what is the requirement from it? So there are two minor constraints for investment. They are not really minor, but yes, they, let's call it minor constraint here. So the first constraint is that Teclov want to invest between 5 to 15 million US dollar per round of investment. Not so low, not so high. Maybe Teclov is not that rich, but it's not so poor as well. So they want to invest between a range of 5 to 15 million USD dollar. It want to invest only in English speaking country because in our group there is no one who know any other language apart from English. So that makes the communication more easier when they will be interacting with that company. Now for our analysis, consider a country to be English speaking only if English is one of the official language in that country. For example, if I say India, so though in India there are lot many languages which are prevailing, but English is one of the official language. So we would consider India as English speaking country. So if you want to get the list for all the countries who are English speaking, you can just click on this link and you will go and check which all countries are going to be your English speaking countries. Okay, so let's go ahead and understand few more things. So these conditions are going to give you sufficient information for your initial analysis. But before getting into specific question, let's understand the problem and data first, because that's a very important point. Whenever you work on any project, be it machine learning, data science, or anything, you have to always first try to understand the data and the problem statement. This is a very important thing. So now what is the strategy we are going to make here? So the Teclov want to invest where others investors are investing. So this is the pattern you will notice that most of the early investors adopt. And since Teclov is also one of the early investor, so maybe they also want to adopt the same thing. Like wherever everybody is going, I will also take the same path. I don't want to take a unique path. So that's basically an idea here. Now, where we have got this data, so this data is coming from a real investment from crunchbase.com. So the insight what you're gonna get is going to be very useful, and basically this is going to be kind of the project which you have to kind of work with me along with me, so you can call it a group one, but it's up to you. And I would strongly recommend, if you have a friend with whom you are doing this course, I have a strong recommendation that try to solve this in a group, because definitely this is will be, you will get better insights if you will be solving these things while discussing with somebody else, because you can come up with some interesting idea. Now you might be wondering, but you are going to give me a solution, then why I need to interact and discuss with my group? No, you have already learned about data science. You have already learned that how to work with NumPy, Panda, ED and all that. Now you really don't need to look at the solution on this. I would strongly recommend that once you understand the problem statement in the data, which I'm going to explain you in this video, and after you walk through this PDF, I would strongly recommend you to try to solve this on your own, because unless and until you give a try on your own, it's completely useless that to even look at this project solution just like that. Because if you look at the solution and try to come up and basically then start looking at it, it may not make much usefulness in terms of your learning. So I would strongly recommend you that, and trust me, this project is going to take some time. So maybe you have to invest a day or two completely focusing on this project, looking at data. There will be a lot of challenges I have put across in this, and it will take some time. It is not going to be like 1 or 2 hour of traditional project. It is definitely going to take some time. So I want you to basically spend a day or two on this complete project after understanding it. And if you have a friend, work in group. This is my strong recommendation. So maybe if you have a friend who is working along with you in this course, then probably just get him along with him and work in a group, devise a strategy and work on it. That would be my insight. That's the reason I have put it as a group project. Okay. So there will be some files which we have, and what I'm going to do is, right now I'm holding up that files. So there will be mapping file, customer files and all. But what I'm doing is I'm right now holding that information to be spoken up here, because I'm going to explain that little later. So even you can see the data standing from NumPy notebook when I'm going to explain you what is this data all about. But for now, let's focus on few more things. So basically, though I've written it like 3 files, but ignore it for now, because this is intentionally being left blank. But here the basically definitely the thing would be that I would strongly suggest that you go back and see that what kind of data you have. So let me give a small brief about it. As I said, there will be 3 files. One will be related to your companies. So this will be companies.txt file. So I'm talking basically from here, okay, this files, and companies.txt file. Second file is going to be rounds2.txt file, and the third file is going to be mapping file. Okay, and don't worry about this file because I have not yet put the explanation here in detail, but later we will understand that. Now let's go ahead and go over a few more things here. So what are the business objective here? So business objective is pretty straightforward. So objective is to identify what are the best sectors, countries and suitable investment type for making investment. The overall strategy is to invest where others are investing, as I told you before, implying that the best sectors and countries are the one where most of the investors are investing, right? As I told you, wherever the crowd is going, I want to follow the same path. Now, what is the goal of the data analysis? There are 3 major categories where I've divided this problem. First is investment type analysis, which is comparing the typical investment amount in venture, seed, angel and private equity. If you don't know about these things, you can read on Google, but I'm going to give an explanation in some time. So that Teclov can choose the type which is best going to be suitable for them. People coming from little bit of startup background, they might be already aware what is venture, seed, angel and private equity, but we will see that. Second is country analysis, that is identifying the country which have been the most heavily invested in the past. These will be the Teclov favorite as well. And the third one is sector analysis, understanding the distribution of investments across the 8 main sectors. Note that we are interested in 8 main sectors provided in the mapping file. So remember I told you the 3 data files which I have, there is a mapping file. So in that mapping file, the information related to sector is there, and from there we will be interested in the top 8 main sectors. So the 2 files, companies and round 2, which are the other 2 files per there, they have numerous subsectors then, okay, and hence you will need to map these each subsector to its main sector. So now basically you are getting some insight about the data as well. So you will notice that basically in rounds 2 and companies you will have some subsectors information names, and basically in the mapping file also there will be some information, so you need to probably join them in some way. Now let's look at the company's detail. A table, basically I'm talking about now these data files. Okay, I'm going in the explanation of them. So basically there's a companies file which is the basic data for all companies. There's a sector classification part where you have mapping.csv file. This file is going to map the numerous basically multiple category names in the company's table, such as you have 3D printing, aerospace, agriculture, etc. And you will be doing it to 8 broad sector names. The purpose is to simplify the analysis into 8 sectors bucket rather than trying the analysis hundreds of them. So that's basically what's the idea behind it. Now let's go to the problem 1, which is the data cleaning. Okay, definitely when you get the data in data science, it's very important that you first look at the data and do provide some cleaning. If you just directly jump to start doing any other thing and do not do a cleaning and bringing the data in the proper format, you are actually not doing the right stuff. Okay, so make sure that you do a data cleaning. So in data cleaning, you have to first load the companies and rounds data. I'm not asking you to yet right now use the mapping data file. This will come little later. Into 2 data frames and name them as companies and round 2. Though I have specifically mentioned it here, but feel free to change it to your own name. That's perfectly fine. Now, this is the table which I have given, and you need to fill up some records to it. So what you could do is that fill up all the answers here and then see that how well you're matching your answers with mine, which I'm going to provide you. Now, how many unique companies are there in round 2? That is what is the first question. How many unique companies are present in companies? That's the second question. In the companies data frame, which column can be used as a unique key for each company? Write the name of the column. Now, the fourth question, are there any companies in round 2 which are not present in companies? Do this carefully. There's a catch here. Merge the 2 data frames so that all variables or columns in the company's frame are added to rounds 2 data frame. Name the merged data frame as master data frame. How many observations are present now in master data frame? This is simple. You can easily do that. So this is what you have to do in problem 1. Problem 1 is quite simple. Okay? Because here you're just doing a data cleaning and making, if you're answering this perfectly fine, that means your data cleaning have happened properly. This is kind of a check that have you done the data cleaning properly or not. This is the problem statement 1. Let's go to problem statement 2. Now, this is the first of 3 goals of data analysis, which is your investment type analysis. The funding type such as seed, venture, angel, etc. Depending on the type of the company, which is either a startup or a corporate, its stages, either it's a early stage startup or a funded startup, or the amount of funding, whether it's a few million USD to billion USD and so on. For example, seed, angel and venture are 3 common stages of startup funding. Remember I told you I will come to that later. This is the point now. So let's talk about what is the seed, private equity and so on. So starting with seed and angel funding, this refers to early stage startups where venture funding occurs after seed or angel stages and involves a relatively higher amount of investment. Private equity type investment are associated with much larger companies and involve much higher investment than venture type. Startups which have grown in scale may also receive private equity funding. This means that if a company have reached the venture stages, it would have already passed through the angel or seed stages. Okay, this stage only happen after angel or seed stages. Now, Teclov want to choose one of these 4 investment type for each potential investment they will make. Now, considering these constraints for Teclov, you have to decide one funding type which is most suitable for them. Remember the constraint, English speaking countries and the 5 million to 15 million kind of decision. So now calculate the most representative value of investment amount for each of the 4 in funding type, which can be venture, angel, seed and private equity, and report the answer in the template provided in the previous page. So basically you will notice that I think I have provided it earlier somewhere. Uh, So basically this is what you have to anyway answer, and what I will do is I will provide you a sheet separate if you want to, where you can fill up. Otherwise that's completely fine. I mean, I will provide you some sort of Excel sheet where you can put it up. So this is your problem number 2, right? So remember that. So here what you have to do is you have to basically fill up all these details for this part. Now let's look at so there's a problem part 2 also. So let's do one thing. So you have to finish up till problem 2 here, and basically this problem type part 2, basically I will be adding up separately for a section. So this is being left out intentionally. I'm gonna put this part in the notebook itself, because there are sometimes what happens, the client have explained the problem and suddenly they say that, okay, can you try this and let me know what to be done in this case. Maybe this means that requirements sometimes keep on getting added from the client side. So this do happens, and that's what I want to show you in this particular case study as well. So while going to the notebook, I'm going to talk about it. That's the reason it is intentionally being kept like that. Now let's go to the country analysis. This is the second goal of analysis, country analysis. Now that you know the type of investment suited for Teclov, let's narrow down the countries. Teclov wants to invest in countries with the highest amount of funding for the chosen investment type. This is part of a broader strategy to invest where most investments are occurring. So Teclov want to see the top 9 countries which have received the highest total funding across all sectors for the chosen investment type. For the chosen investment type, make a data frame named top 9 with the top 9 countries based on the total investment amount each country has received. So identify the top 3 English speaking countries in the data frame top 9. Remember that I'm talking about English speaking countries. There is a possibility when you will be solving this problem, in the top 3 countries, there will be countries which are non-English speaking as well. So you need to make sure that you remove them up. Now this is the sheet which you have to fill up. Okay, so this is the sheet which you have to fill up for case study 3. Now you also know the 3 most investment friendly countries and the most suitable funding type for Teclov. Let us focus on funding the best sector in these countries. Now let's go to problem number 4, which is your sector analysis 1. Now this is the third goal of analysis, which is sector analysis. Now basically here when we say sector analysis, we are referring to one of the 8 main sectors listed in the mapping file. Note that other is one of the 8 sector as well. Also there are 8 sectors if you consider the category blank as missing value. Okay, so there's a missing value part. You can take a call on this, that what you want to do with that. This is to simplify the analysis by grouping the numerous category list named as category list in the mapping file. For example, in the mapping file, category list such as 3D, 3D printing, 3D technology, etc. map to main sector manufacturing. Now also for some companies, the category list is the list of multiple subsectors separated by a pipe. For example, one of the company's country list is application platform, real-time, social network, and you can notice that they are all separated by pipe. But what you have done is when you discuss with your CEO and come up with some business rule, that the first string before the vertical bar need to be considered. So what we decided is, though it may look huge like this, but I'm going to only consider this part. I don't want to consider this at all. I'm going to remove this. So that's the main thing. That's, let's say your CEO have decided that this is what we would like to follow. So what we would like to do is extract the primary sector for each part. So we will only extract out this and work on this part and use the mapping file mapping.csv to map each primary sector to one of the 8 main sectors. Now, what are the expected results in this? Code for merging the data frame with each primary sector mapped to its primary sector. The primary sector should be present in a separate column. If you're right now thinking, oh, it become already a huge project, yes, it is. It is becoming a big project, and that is how in real world you are going to get the problem statements. It's not going to be a small data with cleaned up everything. You just go and start doing. No, it's not going to be a cakewalk. It's going to be like that. And though I'm just reading it out because already I have put across all these things in a very simple words as much as I can, but at the same time, definitely feel free to Again, while I'm explaining each and every problem statement, maybe you can go back and read the whole statement again from your PDF given to you, and then if you have maybe you can even attempt the solution along with that and see how close you are getting to the solution file. And then anyway, you can always look at my video solution which I'm going to provide you to understand what exactly to be done. Let's go to the problem number 5, which is sector analysis 2. Now it is going to go a little tougher. Okay, now you have a data frame with each company main sector mapped to it. When we say sector analysis, we refer to the 8 main sectors. Also, you know the top 3 English speaking countries and the most suitable funding for Teclov. Let's call the 3 countries country 1, country 2 and country 3, and the funding type FT. Now remember that the Teclov is preferring between 5 million to 15 million US dollar. Now the aim is to find out the most heavily invested main sector in which in each of these 3 countries. For funding type FT, an investment range of 5 million to 15 million USD. Now what you have to do in this case, you have to create 3 separate data frames, maybe name them as D1, D2, D3 for each of the 3 countries containing the observation of funding type FT falling within the 5 to 15 million USD range. The 3 data frames should contain now your column of the master frame along with the primary sector and the main sector. Second thing is total number of investment for each main sector in a separate column, and the total amount invested in the main sector in a separate column. Using the 3 data frame, you can calculate the total number of amount of investment in each main sector. Now, what are the expected results in this case? 3 data frames which are going to be D1, D2, D3, and basically based on your analysis, and there is a table 5.1 which I have created, which you need to fill up actually in this case. Okay, so based on your analysis of sector, which main sectors or countries would you recommend Teclov to invest in? Present your conclusions in a presentation. When I say presentation, I really mean that maybe you can pull up into the sheet or whatever way you would like to convey your result. The conclusions are subjective, that is, there may be no right answer. Keep this in mind. Every data scientist is different, every data scientist can come up with different results. But it should be based on the basic strategy, invest in sectors where most investments are occurring. Now note, this is your table which I have given to you already. So fill up all these answers. There are a lot of questions being available for you. Now the last one is you have to plot few things. Plot is also not that straightforward. Definitely you need to do some work. So a plot showing the fraction of total investment globally in venture, seed and equity, private equity, and the average amount of investment in each funding type. This chart should make it clear that a certain funding type is best suitable for Teclov. Second is plot showing for top 9 countries against the total amount of investment for funding type. This should make the top 3 countries very clear. A plot showing the number of investment in top 3 sectors of the 3 top countries, and this is what you have to do. So the expected result is going to be 3 plots. So we have talked a lot about this project, right? If you are thinking this is too much information to grasp right now, it's completely okay. You can listen to me once again, or as I suggested you earlier also, please review this problem statement once again. This is intentionally created like that because in real world you're gonna get the problem like this. Now, what you are expected out of it is, once you understand the problem statement, try to come up with your own solution. Spend a day or two, don't try to cheat. If you're cheating, you're cheating yourself. As I suggested you, go and work in group if it's possible. Pull your friend along with you in this course if possible. This is going to really help you, both of you, if you're working in a group, because you have already seen this course is complex. This has a lot of information. So when you discuss and solve these kind of problems together, it makes a learning even far better. So maybe you can pull up your friend, see that you both discuss, come up with your own solutions. And one more thing, I strongly recommend after you solve these problems, see if you can prepare a nice presentation out of it. Means, let's say, imagine that you are working for Teclov right now, really, okay? And then you have solved this problem. Now Teclov don't want to see your code, right? What Teclov would be interested in? How well you can present a solution to them so that you can tell them, okay, I have seen that you may well do well in US because of this reason. So maybe you can prepare a nice presentation for yourself and feel free to post it into discussion forums and let the other students view that what you have nicely created in this project. So maybe your answers might be different from mine also, which I'm giving, and just put your thoughts in a presentation. Prepare a presentation, name the PPT as Teclov, means keep the background also for Teclov so that it should look professional. That yes, you have prepared a professional presentation for Teclov and you're going to present it. This is also going to give you a nice way of different way of learning and understanding. Very fun to watch. Let the other students also come and kind of put some review for you and tell you that this maybe you can improve, or this you might can improve. So look at, for the students who are not able to prepare that presentation, maybe you can look at least other students and see that what they have done, and maybe you can suggest something better. That would be a nice way of learning. So now in the next lectures we're gonna walk over the solution, but again, a very important point, please do not cheat. Try to solve it on your own first. Okay, so now let's come to solution. I am really expecting that you have tried this on your own and then coming to it, but in case if you have not, no issue, we will now understand this problem statement. So we will see that how to work on the data cleaning first, and we will understand the data also, like companies and all that. So what we will do is, in the first cases, if you remember, we need to only work on rounds and companies. We don't need to bring up the mapping data file. So what we have done is we have loaded this data set. So first we imported all these packages, and then further to that we are loading this rounds to CSV and companies.csv. Now you will notice that in companies.txt we have a separator of tab, and in rounds.csv we do have a comma separated, so it worked well. Now you will notice if you don't use this, if you have tried this already, you might have seen if you would have not used this, you would have got an error in Python. So what you have to do in order to solve this, you need to apply the encoding. And in encoding, this is the very common thing which we use, ISO 88591. So this is a very common encoding what we use in Python side. So this is what even I have used it in this case. So here we basically will encode and start working on it. Now let's look at the data, that what exactly my data is gonna look like. So first thing is we gonna look at the rounds data. So in the rounds data, you can see that we do have all these company names, which is permalink. But you have even the details of like funding rounds, like whether venture round, seed round, what kind of funding, like A series funding, B series funding, C series funding, when it was funded, and what was the amount being raised, right? So this is all the data what you have. Now, if you go ahead and do the info for it, you can see that we have almost like a lot of entries being available in it. We have like 114948 entries total. Now let's look at also few more things. You will notice that found running code, and basically these part also have some sort of missing entry, because you can easily make out from info also, right? You can see here. So if you would have seen, sorry about this. So let me just bring this down. So what you will be doing in this case is, if you see this amount of data, right, this part. So this is like 1149, but you can see that here we have less values. So that means that we do have some missing entries in this case. We have to deal with them. Okay, so we will see that how we can deal with this scenario. But this is giving us an intuition that yes, we do have some missing entries. Now, let's go ahead and look at the company's data. In the company's data, if you look at, this is related to all the companies related information. Like we have permalink here, which you can see the organization frame, name of it, homepage URL, category list, status, country code, status code, region, and so on. Right? So these are my company details being available with us in this case. Now let's come down and try to infer a few more things with it. Now let's look at the structure of my company's data. So this is going to be my information for this. Now what we are going to expect from here is, so there may be few companies which are there in my company's round, but basically they may not be in the round part. Basically maybe they have not got any sort of funding, right? So in the rounds company data frame, maybe we don't have it. Or you might notice that we might have more data in rounds data frame, because there is a possibility that in rounds data frame one company is occurring two times. Maybe a company A is getting series A funding and series B funding both. So both the information will be available in that case, right? But in companies round there will be only one entry for that company A. So that is what can be a possibility when we will see the data. So let's go and explore. So what we noticed that in company's data frame, we got 66,368 unique entries. So this permalink is basically nothing but your company names which are coming up. So when we did the unique of it, we noticed that there are 66,368, and if you will go up and see that, you will notice that this is exactly the same amount of data we had, right? Now, you can see that this is basically the part. Now, if you will, what does this mean for us? This means that this is a unique column, right? You can even check it from here. In companies info, also we had permalink 68 to 68, and the unique also came out to be the same. So it's a primary column. It's kind of a unique column which is non-repetitive in nature. Now let's go ahead and see a few more things. So what you might want to do is, because there's also a possibility that if you look at this data, maybe somewhere it might have been mentioned as something else, and in some other case it might have been mentioned as something else. So what we could possibly do in this case is, if you look at this part, we are getting like organizations frame and so on, right? So maybe there's a possibility that this is written as capital O here, and in some other side it is written as small o. So what we need to do, we need to bring everything to lowercase so that things becomes normal. So what we can do in this case is that we can come here and look at this data, and we what we have figured out in this case is that we basically are getting here all the lowercase, and now you can notice that everything is lowercase. Now let's look at the unique column. It's all set, so that means there's no problem. But yes, there could be a problem in the rounds data frame, so we need to have to do this. Now let's look at a unique in the rounds column, and you can see that we got 90,247. This is too much, right? If it is not comparable with this, we were expecting 66,368, but it is more than number. So what we can do is, let's, maybe there's a possibility that it might be happening due to lowercase and uppercase thing. So what we will do is, we will convert this also to my lowercase. And when I will convert this to my lowercase, you will notice that again everything formed a lower number. And here you can see that when we see this length, we got 66,370, but there is still a small problem. Problem is, we were expecting 66,368, right? 66,368. That was in company. But here are two extra. Now, you may say that maybe this is occurring because there is companies which may be extra, and maybe we don't have any metadata for them in companies. This will be troublesome, right? If we have that, because then in that case, maybe we have to remove those two extra companies that might be coming in your mind, so that we both the data frame have the same number of companies, at least with respect to name. So but before that, let's do some analysis. Let's really see that is it really a problem, because there is a might be some other problem also, right? It may be possible that both the company names are same, but this is all happening because of some Python problem, and actually that will turn out to be. So we will see that what we analysis we will do. So for doing this, what we can do is, maybe we will try to see that what are those two extra companies which are there in my rounds column. Let's explore that. So we have written a code for it, and you can see here that what we are doing for this, we are looking at basically the all the rounds company permalink, which is basically a part of it, and then we have put a not. Basically, we want to find out the companies which are present in rounds but not in my companies. So that's what we want to do here. So when we do this, we saw this sort of output. Now this is strange, right? Because if you look at it, this is not English readable part. This is not English readable. But I tell you one thing to do right away. Pause this video, go to your Excel sheet and look at these indexes. Okay, the data set what you have got, go to these indexes. When you will go to those indexes, you will notice that that will be in English letters, proper English letter. It is not basically like this in the actual data set. That means we have some problem. We have some problem here from Python point of view. Python is not able to read this the thing properly, and because of which this problem is occurring in this case. Now let's see that what we can do to basically fix it then. So in order to do that, so what we will do is, so we have also gone to those indexes from Python, and I've seen that Python is reading like this. But as I said, if you want to go and really check in Excel, you can pause this video right away and go and check. You will notice that in the rounds data set, it is actually going to be a proper English character. So it's a problem of Python, which is basically giving us weird results. Now, what can be a solution for it? So one solution is that we can import with the characters data that carded, and this will tell you that what should be the proper encoding you have to use. Maybe we have used a wrong encoding of ISO, due to which it is happening. So maybe I would like to see basically the right encoding for it. And what we will do for that, we have to install this carded. The reason I have uncommented it out is because it do take a lot of time to run. But let me tell you what this carded do is, it tells you that for this data, what is the right encoding technique you should apply. And you will notice that when you will run it with the result, it will tell you that the right encoding is CP1254. So what we did, we started removing that ISO and started with CP1254, and we noticed that we got an error. Okay, you can try that. I have basically commented it out, but you can actually try this out, and you will notice that we ended up with error. Now, due to this, what we can realize is this is not going to work. So what we have to do in that case, then we started exploring it a little more, and we went to a Stack Overflow discussion, for which I have also given the link. There was a very nice solution to solve this particular kind of issue. And the solution for this is that you can first encode it with UTF-8 and then also decode it with ASCII. Okay, so if you will do this and look at the data now, you will notice that now everything is coming up as a real English character. Now there's no problem of that spatial characters and all. Now let's look at the unique column. So it looks like now we have 66,368, which is good. Now let's look at, maybe the same problem can happen in companies data frame also. So we can compare now with companies. So we have reversed everything up, and we notice that yes, we do have problem in companies as well. So we applied the same solution for companies data frame with UTF encode and decode ASCII, and then after that, when you will try, everything is gone. So now we got a good idea that everything is working good. And what we have done, this clean data, we have just now write it back to a new data set, which is round clean.csv and companies clean.csv. Reason we have done that, because we want to create separate notebooks for some part, because sometimes I have seen that some students complaining that if the notebook becomes huge and if they have less RAM into their system, their notebooks do not load up properly. So for that, we just attempted to split out our notebook into multiple parts. If you want, you could just continue with the same part. So this is the first part of the thing. Like, what we have done is we basically have cleaned up the data and worked on it. Now, given this solution, maybe you can go back and fill up your Excel sheet accordingly. Now you can very easily kind of do all that. So in the last part, we have got our data with the right encoding technique, and we were able to create a new data frame with all the clean one. Now, you might be wondering why we need a data cleaning too, because we have not yet dealt with the missing values, right? So there are a lot of missing values in the data, and now we will see that how to deal with them. Now, the first thing is we gonna load up again the same files which we have created last time. So which was round clean.csv and companies clean.csv. Now let's quickly verify whether in those cleaned data we are getting the records as expected. So if you remember, we were expecting 66,368 records. So we can look at the unique values, and if you look at this, there should be 0, right? Means that there should be no output where I have a permalink present here but not present here, something like that. So now let's go and do the missing value treatment and see that how much missing values we do have. In order to deal with it, we gonna look at the missing value and do the sum of all that, and these are the missing values. Now it's little difficult to interpret here, so we would like to see it in the percentage format rather than this format. So before that, let's also quickly look at the rounds data frame missing values, and yes, we do have some missing values here as well. So what we will do is we will look at the percentage format and on the merge data of both. But if you look at it, what is the common columns which is possible for them? We have a permalink column, right? So permalink column. So these two columns are same here. So what we would like to do is we would like to see that how we can perform basically this merge. So this companies and rounds we're gonna merge, we're gonna do an inner join, and we will do it on this particular column. Let's look at the data. So this is how the data merge data is gonna appear like. Let's go ahead and look at the column of the master data frame. This is the column, but notice one thing, we still have a permalink here, and we also have even company permalink here. We don't need both, right? We have already merged them. So why we need both? So let's remove this unnecessary extra column. So what we will do, we will drop the company permalink here. Now let's look at the column, all look good. Now let's go back to the missing value data. Now, as I said, it will be a good idea if we look at the missing data from the point of view of percentage rather than looking at the raw data. And in order to do this, what we can do, we can look at the missing value sum divided by total number of indexes present in it. So this will give us the percentage. Now, so in this percentage, we can see that this is definitely one of the waste column here, because 70, almost 72.91%, which is 73% of the data is kind of not available. So we would like to remove it. And similarly, if you look at some more columns, right? Let's say if I talk about homepage URL, business point of view, it may not make sense. Similarly, if I look at some other column, let's say funded ad, right? Basically, founded ad. This is basically a waste column. Funded ad may be useful, so let's keep it. Similarly, we have state code, region, city. So these columns may not be, from the business perspective, they may not be useful. So I would like to remove them up. So let's drop all these unnecessary columns. And now let's look at again the missing value data. Now raised amount USD have 17.39% of missing data. Now what you can do with this? Think on it. Now, one way is you may say that, oh, this is too huge number of missing data, let's move it. No, but this is the main column on which you want to do all your analysis. So you cannot simply remove this particular column. So what we should do? The next thing which comes in our mind, that should we think of doing some imputation here? So before we do any sort of imputation, let's quickly explore this data. And while exploring this data, I'm going to use this describe. And in this describe, what we're going to do, we're going to say that, okay, we have a count of this. This is sounding good. But if you look at this, my mean and median have a huge difference. Look at this mean. This is 10 to the power 7. And look at the median, which is 10 to the power 6. It's the mean is somewhere around like 10 million and median is around like 1 million, right? So there's a huge difference. Even if we look at the minimum and maximum value, there's a huge difference between them, right? They are continuously very far apart. So definitely imputing the mean will not be good, because there's a huge variation of data in this particular case. Now one way is either you can just remove some outliers by using some methods which we have learned in the sections. That can be one way, or other way is you can probably remove these 17% data which is missing, and I would prefer to choose to remove that, but I leave this as a homework exercise for you guys to maybe look at the outlier component and see that how you can remove these particular outliers from here and then do imputation on it. So maybe you can do a median imputation or a mean imputation, up to you. So now here what we are going to do is we gonna remove that. So what I've done, I've just basically said that take only the master data frame where I don't have the missing value, right? So this is basically the code which is gonna help me remove all the missing data from it. Now let's again quickly look at how much missing data we are left with. So we can see the next one is country code, which still have quite a good missing data. Let's go and explore this also. So let's quickly see the value count, because it's a categorical data. So maybe we can see that how the countries are distributed, and we can see here that USA is occurring 62,049 times, GBR is occurring 5,019 times, and so on. So we can notice that this data is also not uniformly distributed. You can see that most of the country code is like USA and maybe the initial few countries, but coming down it's very low in number. So maybe imputation here will also be tough. How you would say that, what imputation should you do? Can you say that really I should put USA everywhere? Mode? Um, Maybe a good strategy, but might not be good, right? Because the real data set, and we would not like to randomly put any data just like that, because the distribution is not that great. But yes, one strategy could be that you could have gone with mode. Means some data scientists could have approached with the mode factor, which is USA, and applied here. But my strategy would be that since it's just 6%, let's remove them. So I will just remove them out, because the percentage also, if we look at 65% is USA and remaining is very low. This is just to look at the percentage part. Now let's remove them. As I said, let's remove all the country code which are missing. Let's look at the percentage again, and this time you can see that we have only category list which is 0.65. Let's remove them simply. This is very, very less. So let's remove them out, and we remove the category list wherever also we have missing value, and now we have left with this. Now you can see this, and we can write it up again to a CSV file, and if we see this information, you can see that there's no missing value. One more thing which we can also do is that we can see that how much data we are retaining after removing all those missing value. Because if you have noticed that every time we were just removing our missing values, right? Now we would like to see that how much missing data after removal of missing data, the data we have retained. So we are left with almost 77% of the data, which is good, right? We have lost 23%, and given that this data set was pretty huge comparatively, so it's okay if we have kind of removed this much. So this is what we will be left with, and we will now use this data frame which is clean data for our further analysis. So now in this part we are going to perform some analysis. Now if you recall from our problem statement, we have to perform funding analysis, we have to perform country analysis, and we have to perform sector analysis, right? These are the places where Teclov would like to invest. So in this case, remember the constraint which we had, like investment should happen only between 5 to $15 million, and second constraint was the English speaking countries. So let's talk about funding type analysis first. Now if you recall, in the last case we have created the master data frame, which was the merge data frame for it. Let's load it, see the data, and now in the funding analysis we want to identify whether we should go for venture investment or seed investment or angel investment or private equity. So what we will do is we will filter out the data based on the round funding type. So that's what we have done in this particular code. Now there will be a very important decision which we have to make here. Should we make the call based on the mean value, or should we make the call based on the median value? So for that we need to understand whether we have outliers or not here. So let's do that. So in this case, let's look at the raised amount USD, and on the Y axis, if you notice, I have taken the log of it, so that otherwise if you remove the log and create this, you will notice that you will not be able to make out anything of it, because it's completely on a very bad scale, and that's the reason you will not be able to make any information out of it. Now let's look at the summary stats. It will give you even better insight, but here definitely we can see from here that there are some outliers going up, right? You can see that there are a lot of dots above this quartile. Now let's look at this describe, and this is kind of confirming our thing as well, right? You can notice here that my median value is here, which is 10 to the power 6, and mean value is also 10 to the power 6. So it sounds good, right? But at the same time, look at the number. Here we have 2 million of median, and there we have 9 million of median. Now definitely this is not good, right? If you look at it, 9 million versus 2 million have a good difference in terms of mean and median. So in this case, maybe we would like to go with respect to a median rather than going with the mean part. Now let's go ahead and see few more components with respect to this. What we're gonna do is, now let's draw a box plot, and this box plot is again for all the funding type. So on the y-axis with the log scale, we have put raised amount USD, which is basically this part, and on x-axis we have put venture, seed, private equity, and angel. So this is giving us an insight that how this data is distributed. So you can notice that maybe seed investment is happening lower, then the angel is investment and all, and then venture, and then private equity. And if you know the startup how it works, it basically makes sense also. This is how the investment is happening. But for us, the main thing is to look at these outliers, right? So we do have a lot of outside going values, which tells us that we should definitely go for median. Now, one more thing what we can do is we can do a comparison of mean and median value into while creating a simple pivot table. Now you can see here that what we are trying to do is on the basically here, like for we have created this for median part. So you can see that for angel, this is the median value for this value. For venture, we have like 5 into 10 to the power I think 6. Similarly, but here you can see this is 10 to the power 6, but this right hand side, right? So this is the right hand side. This right hand side is your mean value, and anything here is the median value. But if you compare here, this is 10 to the power 7, right? So there's a huge difference popping up here. Even you can compare for others also, right? You can see that there's a huge difference in median and mean. So this tells us that probably we should look forward for looking at the median instead of looking at the mean value. So now let's do basically median for all this investment type, with which is going to be your private equity, venture, or angel investment, or seed investment. So what we have done is we have done it in the sorted way. Now, by looking at it, it looks like private equity have the maximum investment happening, so we can go with this. But we have to remember our rule. We cannot go beyond 5 million to 15 million part, right? So we cannot go this. This is above our pocket. Now, in the second part, venture is falling in our pocket. This is venture is definitely falling in our pocket. But if we look at this two, definitely they are below our pocket. Means I don't want to look at anything below $5 million. So maybe I will go for venture. So that is the way we can choose it. Now you can make out it's so important to choose whether you should go for median and mean here, right? So because mean could give you completely different result. So one way I could ask you to do as a homework activity is that you can probably look at if you can remove first outliers and then use the mean as this and see that whether you're getting the same result or not. So this can be another strategy which I want you to attempt and see whether it works. So this is the first part where we looked at the investment type. So we got that funding type. We need to look at the venture. Oh, sorry. We need to look at the venture. Say, and we will not take anything else, right? So this is the first answer we got. Now let's look at the country analysis where we need to look at the top three English speaking countries. Now in the second part, we basically what we are actually trying to find out is we want to find out those countries where the maximum investment is happening, but at the same time they should be English speaking country so that we should not face any sort of communication issue. So that was the second restriction kind of thing which we have put across with it. Now, what we are going to do, since we have decided that we will go only with venture, so let's take out the data only for venture, because maybe I would only try to analyze with respect to venture now that which country is having the maximum investment. That will make more sense for us. Now, so we have done it. Then after that, what we can do is we can quickly see with respect to like USA and all, and we have done all this in the sorted order, like what is the value coming up for this, right? So we have just basically summed up all the funding which have happened for each country, and in the sorted order we have returned you the result. Now this is interesting. We got almost our point. Now we can extract the top 9 countries. So these are our top 9 countries, which because it was in sorted order, we can just take the top 9 rows from it, and we can see that we got USA, China, GBR, India, Canada, France, and so on. Right. So these are the countries we got. Now, but we are interested in only top three English speaking country. We are not at all interested in any other type of countries. And if you will look at the link which I have given you, basically, definitely USA is one of the English speaking country. But China is not. So China we have to rule out. So China do not have English speaking part. So then GBR and India is also English speaking country. So we can basically take them up. So in this case, we will go with these English speaking countries. And basically, if you look at the output, this is basically the output for it. So we basically have pulled out only the data for English speaking country. Let's look at the data frame information. Now we are left with 38,800 rows. This looks good. You can plot it even for all these three countries to see that how the investment is happening, and we can see that this is the way investment is flowing in these top three English speaking countries. Now, after this, we need to work on sector analysis. We will learn to that in the next video. But as told you that this is not the only way we have done this analysis. And at the same time, if you recall from the problem statement, you need to keep filling your those sheets also which I have given you. So that was just a way for you to basically verify my answers. But these are not hard and fast things, but definitely when you will be working across for a real-time projects, you might come across these kind of requirements a lot. Like, fill this kind of sheets and give us the answer in appropriate format. And if you recall, even I have added one more requirement for you to prepare a presentation and post it to your discussion forum to showcase to the other students that what you are recommending to Teclov for this. Maybe you can upload it on Google Drive and give the link for everyone to just look at it. So this will be a good thing from your end to try. This will really help out. But what we will do is the next part is sector analysis. This is the final analysis which we're gonna work on in this statement. Okay, so now let's solve our last case, which is for the sector analysis. Now, in sector analysis, we after we have got our data from mapping table, you would notice that my data, especially in category list, which you can see here, there is a lot of places where you will see this pipeline operator. And if you remember, we discussed a strategy with CEO that we would only like to pull out maybe the first element before the pipe and we're gonna keep it up. So that is what we have to do in this case. So what we're going to do is we gonna basically fix up the value with respect to pipe and gonna read the zeroth value, and we're gonna store this value in main category. So you can even confirm in main category, you can see the last one is pulled up as apps. So wherever we don't have anything as pipe operator, we are okay with it, we will leave it as it is. But for the remaining portions, we have to convert it. Wherever the pipe is coming, we will take only the zeroth element out of it. So once we have it, maybe we can remove this category list column, because then it will be for no use for us. So we're going to remove this column from here. Once we have removed this column, let's read the mapping.csv file and let's read this comma separated data. Now, so basically this part, what I was doing was still on the old data, because uh, in mapping CSV file, what you're going to read, you will be having something like category list, based on which we have to do a merging. So but that's the reason this thing was very important. Now here you can see that we have a category list, right? So there, that's what we're gonna do merging with this. But if you look at the missing data from it, we can see here also there's a missing data showing up. But let's see from here. So we can see that only one missing value is there in category list, which we were able to see also. So let's remove that. Don't make sense to do anything out of it. Let's remove that. Once we have removed it, now we look all clean in terms of any missing data. Now, once we got the missing data, first thing is we should convert everything to lowercase, so that everything falls to, because we are going to merge the category list, right? And if you remember, the same thing we have done for the company names earlier as well. So here the category list for my mapping as well as for DF, both I am gonna just convert it to lowercase. So once I have done it, now let's look at the data, and looks like for mapping it looks like this, and for DF this looks like this. So clearly we do have something like mapping, basically category list, which is common in both, and we can use it to basically do a combination. Now we have to do few more analysis. Okay, so that's what we have inferred, but let's do some more analysis. Let's look at the category list column present in my mapping, and you will notice that it is very important actually here to do this step. You really cannot skip it out, and you will get the reason in few minutes why. So this is the data what we have, but what I want you to notice is, we just like how we were doing it for company name, that we were looking at the sum of the company name which were not present in the other company name. So we're gonna do something similar here as well. And what we were doing is, in this case, we were looking at the main category in DF, which is not there in mapping category list. And we notice that we have some value. And a similar way you can also notice here as well, when we did the reverse, which is this in the mapping but not there into main category. So this is the part. But we notice something weird here. If you look at it, this data, so you can notice that this is written as alter 0 TIFF, but from our English language knowledge, it looks like it should be alternative. Similarly, here also it is A0 latex, but from our English language, it looks like it should be analytics. Similarly, you can notice for big data analytics, right? So notice this 0 and so on. So you would notice something weird. That means there are some part where we have wrong values being inputted. Maybe somebody might be trying to put there was a missing value he might be treating, and he might be putting everywhere 0, right? Something like that he might have done it, and that's where this values also got cribbed up. So we need to now fix this, right? We cannot keep the wrong values, otherwise maybe at somewhere else we have alternative, but here it is alter zerotive. It will treat both these things different, and it will tell that this is not there in this. So we need to fix this. So what we are going to do in order to fix this, so let's come down, and what we are going to do is we are going to replace any 0 with NA, right? So now after that, if we look at this data, now everything looks cool, no issue. So this is, we can see that after we have done all this analysis. Then after that, we can merge these two data frames. So DF and mapping, do an inner join, do a left down, basically on these two columns. Once you did the merge, this is your data in front of you. Once we got it, maybe we can remove the old category list, because let's not keep the duplicate. And let's look at the information. This is what the data looks like. But one thing which we have to again notice is, so let me explain you first what do you mean by a wide data frame, so that then we will understand what to convert to long. So if I go up and look at the mapping data, right now, look at this data, mapping data. So this is my mapping data. But if you look closely, my data set is, this is called a wide data frame. So let me explain you what I mean. If you look at this, in all these columns, there is only one value which is going to be 1, right? So let's say if I have a category list as air pollution control. So in this case, only this belongs to maybe clean tech or superconductors. Similarly, you will notice that if it is alternative medicine, then only it belongs to healthcare, only nothing else, right? All the values will be 0. So this is called wide column. Okay, in machine learning, when you will go and learn about it, it will be called, it will be also done by using dummy variable kind of concept. We will learn that. But here, basically you can see that only one value will be 1, means if I again take this example clean tech, so maybe this part belongs to this, right? So this is what this is gonna tell me. But we could have a better way to deal with it, right? How about if I would have a column here, let's say a column, maybe in the end, I'm just writing it here, but maybe I could have a column sector. And when I would have said air pollution control, maybe instead of writing all this, I could have a value for it, let's say clean tech. Okay, clean tech. Similarly, in this particular second row, since this is the value, maybe here in this row, I could have put health, right, like this. So maybe instead of all this, how about keeping a column, because it will be more easy for me to analyze in that case. I'm not, remember, I'm not using many machine learning here. It's all about just doing a simple data analysis. So this is what I would like to do, and if you look on Google, there are various ways to handle that. One way to do it is melt function. So melt function can help us also to convert this wide to long, and you can read about it if you want to, but I've shown how to do that. Even I've put a lot of notes for you. uh, you can probably read all these values in detail. Okay, what is exactly is going to do, there are so many examples being provided, you can also run that, but let me explain you what we are going to do here. Now if you will look at the map, basically the DF data frame, right? So if we go back to DF, let me go back quickly to it. So this is my DF. So in this DF, I have like so many columns here. So, but because we have merged it, right? Merge it with the mapping file. But from the ninth column, if you count it up, it will be ninth column, ninth index. In fact, I should say ninth index to basically 18th index or 17th. We will check that. So basically till this index, we have all this column, which is basically can be converted to one column. So what we will do here, we are going to bring up df.column till 9 to 18, right? So that's what we have done in this case. So we have stored all these columns in a value variable. Now after that, what we're gonna do, so let's say we had all the columns starting from 0 to, let's say, 18 or 17, whatever, right? So let's say we have till 17th. Now because 18th will not be considered, right? Remember how the Python works. So here what is going to happen is maybe from A to 18th basis, A to 18th like this. Okay, A to 18, basically it is going to be this columns, which is we have already kept it in value vars, but the remaining I want to keep it in a different variable. Means all the column except this I want to keep it on different variable. Let's call this id vars. So for getting this, we will be using setDiff1d. So this is what it gonna do is we can put all the column names and this. So what it do is it do a subtraction, basically all the column minus these columns which we have kept it. So once we remove it, you can notice that in value vars we have all these columns, and in id vars we have these columns. Okay, so this is how we are going to keep in this case. Once we are done with this, now there is pd.melt function to help us achieve this. So here we need to pass the data frame, we need to pass the id vars and value vars, and this is just gonna make sure that all your value vars will become like into one column and in terms of value, which we were discussing last time. So that is what it's gonna do for us. So let's do a melt, and you can see that we saved it to a variable. This is called a variable column name. We will change that later column to some meaningful name, but this is by default the variable name it creates. You can also notice that it creates a lot of unnecessary rows. If you do a length of it, you will notice that it will be too much in number. So because it also keep a zero value for it. So 0 1, what does the 0 1 means? So 0 means that this do not belong to automotive experts, right? It's all junk columns. And 1 means that if the value was, let's say, 1 here, then it would have mean that it belongs to automotive. So we would like to only consider the columns which have only value 1. So let's go and see that. So we have done it. So wherever the long value is 1, those rows only we need to clear it up. And we also remove the value column because we really don't need it. And if you look at the length of it, you will notice that it is 38,788, which is was my earlier S1. So that means that we have exactly brought it to the same type. So what I mean was, like, if you look at the data frame df earlier what we had and look at the length of it, that was also the same, right? So this is what your melt function have done. Now after that, let's rename this variable column to sector because it will make more sense. And let's look at the information of all these columns. So we can see that we have good amount of data. Now what we will do, we will go with the same constraint which we have between 5 million to 15 million. That's what our constraint. So we will calculate from the long data frame, the data frame accordingly. We will filter out that. And once we have done it, we will do a group by and we'll get two values. One is the total number of investment happening in a particular sector. And remember, I'm only working on these three countries, GBR, India and USA. And that is what we have figured out last time. So this count is just telling me that how many total number of investment have happened, and the sum is telling me that what is the total sum amount on which the investment have happened. So these two entries is what we have figured out, and it was very easy to do it by Python by using a group by, and then with respect to risk amount USD, and we have done an aggregation with respect to count and sum, right? So these were two things we have got. Once we got to this, then after that we will be plotting a graph. So we will plot two graphs. One will be for count and one will be for basically total sum amount. So you can notice that this is the value what we got, right? Two graphs. So the first graph is total investment amount and the second graph is number of investment here. Now here we are also having an other sectors. So that's definitely one thing. So there were total 8 sectors. If you go back to your mapping data also. So let's say if I go back to mapping data, let me go up so that you can notice that how many sectors we had. So you can see that automobile and sports is one sector. Ignore the blanks because that was the missing data which we have removed anyway. So one sector, two sector which is clean tech, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh if we are not considering other, but if you are considering others then there are total 8 sectors. So now let's come down to it. So there are total 8 sectors which we have seen in this case. And if you look at it here, we basically others is also having a huge number of investment happening, right? So here also you can see that even in here also others have a huge count of investment also happening. So if you want to consider it, you can accordingly answer. If you don't want to consider it, you need to accordingly answer. So here, like I have also put it in terms of words here that basically you can see that total amount major investment is happening in USA, and you can easily verify that. For USA is kept in blue color, and you can see that even the total investment is very high for this and even the count is very high for this. But if you also look at, there are other socials and analytics, so these are like heavily invested, right? You can see that these are like heavily invested ones. So this is how you need to tell, like for USA, for GBR and all. So you can tell based on these amounts that or count that which sectors you want to invest in. So now it's quite easy for you by looking at this graph and looking at this output to tell that which is going to be the best sectors to invest in. So this is all about how you can perform this. As I was telling you continuously, you could have approached this problem by a complete different medium. And I strongly recommend you to follow your instinct by using other mediums as well. There's no issue in this. So I can take a call and you can definitely go ahead and kind of evaluate all these things on your own by looking at different ways. Like I told you, maybe you could look at mean by removing outliers. So that can be one method which you can adopt, and maybe you can get different answers. So I would like to see that if you have different answers. So try with your own way. This is just one way which I explained you up, which I thought is the best way. But definitely there can be other best ways or better ways than this. You can put that, and as I suggested, please prepare a presentation now after this once you come up with your own ideas and put it across there, that how you would like to share your thoughts with the client in form of PPT. Prepare a professional presentation so that and paste it, upload it in Google Drive. Change the sharing setting so that everybody can see it, and put it in the discussion forums. This will encourage other students to also look at your part and maybe give you some suggestions that this is how you can improve. So that's the best way of learning. Please do follow that. So this basically completes this one, this particular case study.